Hey, so is it good to do good? Did anybody find out this week it was good to do good? Anybody? Yeah. Well, at least one. Thank you. Yeah. Two people. Good. Well, I'm glad I'm speaking to the crowd. Yeah. Anyway, here we are. And we are in Mark chapter 3. And we're in verse 7. So let's read the story and see what happens today. It says, Jesus withdrew to the sea with his disciples, and a great multitude from Galilee followed, and also from Judea, and from Jerusalem, and from Idumea, and beyond the Jordan, and the vicinity of Tyre and Sidon. A great number of people, I love when you turn the page in the middle of the sentence, heard of all that he was doing and came to him. And he told his disciples that a boat should stand ready for him because of the crowd, so that they would not crowd him. For he had healed many, with the result that all of those who had afflictions pressed around him in order to touch him. Whenever the unclean spirits saw him, they would fall down before him and shout, "You are the Son of God." And he earnestly warned them not to tell who he was. So, some of these people in this description walked 100 miles. That was before planes, trains, and automobiles, right? So it was hardly anybody owned a horse or had a wagon. So it was, and most of them had really crummy shoes. Like none of you would even wear their shoes. Like you'd be just like, oh my gosh, how could anyone live wearing these kinds of shoes to walk hundreds of miles? And they would walk, so some of these places are 100 miles to journey to see Jesus. And here you have another place where the demons are trying to say who he is, and he's telling them, shut up. All my life, man, that was like why? I thought, what are we doing here? You're preparing the crowds, you're leaving. So if you weren't here, the last verses were that the Pharisees were really mad at him because he went ahead and healed on the Sabbath, made them look bad by saying, is it good to do good on the Sabbath? Should I heal this guy? And then he healed him, knowing that they thought he shouldn't. And it said they were mad at him. So he left the city, got away from them, goes out, and the crowd follows him, and he prepares for him. He gets a boat ready so that they can't press him. He's going to get in the boat and teach from the boat. And he's preparing for them, healing them, continuing to heal them, preaching the truth to them, showing them exactly who he is. And then when the demons want to say, you're the Son of God, he silences them. When people who are healed said, you are the Son of God, he silenced them. And that always bothered me. Like, why is he silencing them? This doesn't make sense. It's like, you go, stop healing people and they won't think you're the Son of God. Stop preaching this truth and they won't be confused. Why are you not, it's like, and I'm just going to tell you, it's nothing has changed. It's just like last week, nothing has changed. The spirit of the Pharisee is still here. The Pharisee would be the leaders of the church, the leaders of the tabernacle. They're looking for exactly who Jesus is. But they can't recognize him because they're looking for someone different. If someone told you all your life he would be 8 feet tall and blonde, and a 5'2" man with black hair came in saying he was him, it'd be really hard for you to believe it. No, he's 8 feet tall. You're only 5'2". Are you going to grow 3 feet? What's? And you would be very confused. And this is what it was for them. Wow. They want this Messiah to come, and they're looking for something very different. And if they make it clear you're the Messiah, then you're going to be the Messiah they want you to be. And the demons are coming to say who you are, to deceive the people, to believe that you are who they think you are, not who you really are. You see, if the demons started crying out, you're the Holy One of God who's going to pay for the sins of man, you'll be crucified, you'll defeat their enemies of their spirits, but not the Romans, he wouldn't have silenced them. You're going to win the battle for the soul. You're going to forgive our sins and make your home in us. He wouldn't have silenced them. Because then they would be telling the truth of who he is. And that's why he was healing, because the healing was telling the truth of who he is. That's why he was preaching the truth. When he was 12 years old in a temple, they said, how does this guy know these things at 12 years old? You see, he was revealing who he is. That's written in the Bible. That's famous. Nobody silenced that truth. They're not silencing this truth. They told about him forgiving. They told about his eat my flesh and drink my blood. They told those things, and he didn't silence them. But he silences people and demons and even healed people who are trying to say he isn't who he is. He's what they say he is. And see, that for the Father's House Church, I would say my greatest desire, and I won't know how well I did until I get there, is that we find out who he says he is, not make him into who we say he is. Did you follow that? I hope you're listening. I hope there's people that can only listen for a few minutes and then they drift off. And I hope I got that into you before you drifted off. That is the goal of the Father's House Church. That's the goal of my life. It has not, I've read this book so many times, and it does not work well for people who make God what they want him to be. It just doesn't work. Here's the phrase I use. It's a Christian belief. It's a Christian system that just doesn't work. You say he's this, this, and this, and he isn't. The only spiritual being that can be what you described is your enemy. And they will masquerade as your friend, and your life will be screwed up while you believe in Jesus. While you say you believe in him. But you're not really believing in him. You're believing in what you said he is, instead of what he says he is. There's a phrase in here, Son of Man. Jesus calls himself the Son of Man more than he calls himself any other thing. And in the book of Daniel, it says, and he was like one like the Son of Man. And immediately they say, oh, that's Jesus. Well, there was no Jesus. That's not Jesus. All that word means is he is a human being. A spiritual person, could have been angel, could have been God, but came as looking like and appearing like a human being. When Jesus says the Son of Man, he's saying God as a man. And so in the book of Daniel, it just means a human being, a spiritual being that looks like a human being. Like of the angels riding in a chariot, they would be like the Son of Man. And so we make this being into being Jesus when there was no Jesus before Christmas Day. Angels in the field, star in the sky, and the shepherds looking over their flocks. That's when Jesus appeared by being born in the birth canal. And a baby laying in swaddling clothes in a manger, in a cave. That's where Jesus appeared on the earth. And so we want to make him into all kinds of things. And it's marvelous how many things human beings can make Jesus into. But I think the pursuit of man and the pursuit of the Father's house, if you are looking for a church and you want to learn who God is, so do we. Who does he say he is? Not who do we say he is. And when Jesus is silencing demons and he's getting away from Pharisees and he's telling healed lepers, don't tell anyone what you just said because you're trying to sell them on the wrong thing. I'm trying to show you that if you want to be great in the kingdom of heaven, you have to learn to be the servant of all. I'm trying to tell you the least amongst you will be the greatest. And you still believe that I'm saying that if you're blessed by me, you'll be the greatest. I'm saying if you make yourself the least of these, you'll be the greatest. See, these are the things he's teaching. You cannot have my blessing until you learn to trust in me. That's what he's saying. You have to learn to trust in me like a little child. Matthew starts out, the whole beginning of Matthew is trying to teach us to trust him like a little child trusts their parent. Well, I'm not a little child anymore. It's hard for me to go back and think that way. He tells Nicodemus, you must be born again. He says, I can't be born again. That's already happened. I was this big, I could fit in my mother. I can't be born again because I can't fit in her. Yeah, you're just thinking all wrong. You're thinking of it your way. Now think of it my way. And that's what he's telling them. And here's in this story, so it says Jesus withdrew. And he withdrew to get away from their version of what the Messiah should be. He's just healed a withered hand in the temple, revealing who he is, and people are going to start making him who they want him to be, and it says he withdrew to the Sea of Galilee, down to this, I don't know where he withdrew. He withdrew to the wilderness. And they followed him. And then they had heard what he was doing, and they came from far and wide. They came from long distances, at great cost, at great effort, using up great amounts of time to go be and find this Jesus and find out who he is. And the only thing he's telling them is who he is and what his plan is for them and what the truth is about the kingdom. And the Pharisees follow too to argue constantly, and you'll see that in they constantly question him and argue with him about what he's saying the kingdom's like. He's saying in the kingdom you count others as more important than yourself. They're trying to promote nationalism, which makes the Jewish nation or the Israeli nation the most important on earth. He's trying to tell them, you're looking for a Messiah to make you the most important on earth. I'm telling you, you have to become the least on earth. Things are changing. Your old covenant with all of your patriarchs and all of your judges and all of your heroes is gone. The Messiah has come to help you become the least of these, my brethren. You're missing the point. And in Christianity today, we still fight in that same fight, arguing that same argument, declaring those same truths, that he wants to make our nation the greatest nation. And I don't care what nation you're from. I hear it from all nations. God's lifting us up, making us great. When the whole story of Jesus is, no. He's bringing us down, humbling us, making us less than the servant of all. And then we walk in this peace and patience and kindness and goodness, and you know what I'm talking about. That's what sets you apart as the greatest of all. When you can have the tragedies you walk through and still fall in love with Jesus, still walk in love with Jesus, still love others as God has loved you. That's the proof that you're going after Jesus. Not that you've been elevated to be the greatest of all. It's that you have been willing to humble yourself and be less than. To not choose the chief seat, but go to the low seat. To not proclaim your own greatness, but let God proclaim your greatness. Demonstrate God's greatness. The Son, the very act of sonship, or which is what daughters and sons do, is make their father famous, make their father successful. The absolute act of an orphan is to try to become famous by their connection to their father. Pull their father down, make themselves important. That's the absolute fact of orphanism. The absolute fact of sonship is making my father famous. I represent my Father who art in heaven. I represent Jesus, my Father who came down and dwelt among us, became flesh. He paid our penalty. He won our battles, and he paid our debt. That's what tetelestai means. It is finished. One of the 6 things he said on the cross, one of the end, they've turned it into everything else. But what it means is, it's finished. The debt is paid. The battle is won. The penalty is served. That's what it means. And we've turned it into everything else. And he's getting away from those who would change the narrative, those who will change the story. They're about nationalism. We are the greatest. So they are the Levites. If you're not familiar with Israel, they are the Levites, the priest tribe. And they're superior in a nation of Jews who are superior, but yet they're in occupation to the Romans. It's kind of hard to think you're superior when you're occupied by an invading army. And they persecute you and kill you at will. And they take all your money and they have you under their thumb, but yet you have the pride to stand up and say, we're superior. And then the Messiah comes and it's, oh great, the Messiah's here. See, we're finally going to prove that we're the greatest. We're finally going to prove we're the best. And Jesus is like, get me out of here. He withdraws and they follow him and they chase him. They come to him. And then it says they press in on him in verse 11. 10, I'm sorry. So you've got the demons calling him the Son of God. Jesus is silencing them because they're trying to sell the narrative of greatness. And he's trying to sell the narrative of servant, of sacrifice for sins, payment for penalty. He's trying to be the least in the kingdom so that he'd be the greatest in the kingdom. That he would show them how to walk with this holy God, and that the results would be love. There's nothing about love in the Pharisaical record. Nothing we read in here is them loving people. Jesus says last week, is it good to heal this guy on the Sabbath? And he heals him. Because Jesus' narrative, his story, what his message is all about love. The Pharisees' message is all about power. All about superiority. About greatness. We got to ask ourselves these questions. Have you followed Jesus? And what does that mean to you? Does that mean you saw he went that way, so you went that way? Or does it mean you saw what he did and you did that? You heard what he said and so you did what he said. You saw who he is and you tried to be who he is. You saw his absolutely trusting in the Father, feeding thousands with nothing, having gold coins in the mouths of the fish, provision coming from nowhere. Walking through life with a power to save and heal and deliver, commanding demons, commanding weather, calming the sea, walking on the water, preaching the truth. Have you followed Jesus? Have you intended to be like him, to be the sacrifice for your neighbor? He's going to be sacrificed. Well, can I be sacrificed in his place? He owes a debt. Can I pay his debt? He has a battle. Can I fight his battles? Have you decided to follow Jesus? Because that's who Jesus is. I will wrestle your demons. I will fight your battles and pay your debts. Or is it always about who's going to pay mine? Who's going to help me? Have you followed Jesus? They followed him out to where he went. They pressed in on him. Have you pressed him for what you need? And what is it you need? You see, that's the other half of this story. It's all about me, 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 me. What is it you need? And I'm going to tell you what you need. You need a place to serve. You need a place to lay down your life. You need to be taught selflessness. You need an example of selflessness. Have you pressed into him for those things? A place to give, a place to serve, a place to experience his love, and then give it away. Have you found a place in following him? Has he taken you to that place? And when you don't have it, and your life is still all about you, and you're still suffering from your poor decisions, and you're still suffering from the mistakes of your life, and you're still not finding that peace that passes understanding, joy unspeakable, that knowledge, like that understanding of who you are, the least in the kingdom. Have you found that? Are you following Jesus? Are you pressing in on him? Are you making it so he has to get a boat? You're putting so much pressure on him. He has to have a boat as a relief point to get away from him, to get back from you, because you're putting so much pressure on him with your desire to be used, your desire to be poured out, your desire to give, your desire to serve. Is it you pressing in on the kingdom of heaven until they have to have a boat to get back and be able to keep teaching you because you're pressing in on them? That's what's happened in the story. They're hungry for what he's got because they know what those Pharisees are teaching. So the demons chime in. You're the Son of God. Don't forget, people, who we are. It's like the Son of God has come to us. No, you be quiet. It just only doesn't make sense that he silences them saying that because it's the truth. But he silences them because they're trying to get your mind off of what this is about. The Son of God has come to me. You know, I am God's anointed. That's what they want him to say. That's what they want to say. That's what the disciples want. So, who's the greatest amongst us? Can we sit at your right hand? Can I sit at your right? Can he left? Can my sons both sit with you in the kingdom? Lady, you're missing everything. You're listening to demons. You want to be great in the kingdom? Then start washing feet. You won't wash my feet. If I don't wash your feet, then you're not really getting my message. I've come to serve. That's what he said. The Son of Man has come to serve. Have you followed Jesus? Is that what you're here to do? I found Jesus. He was real. I'm telling you, I found Jesus. He's real. Those of you that don't know he's real, I just mourn for you. I don't know how to help you. You got to keep pressing. Find Jesus, not to serve you, but to serve him. I didn't know what I needed. All I wanted to know is, first and foremost, is he real? Right. If he's real, maybe I should listen to him. And he was real. So 49 years ago, I started this journey. And I'm telling you, all I keep bonking my head on, it's not all about you. You are supposed to make it all about others. And when you make it all about others, then you'll start to understand the part that's for you. I've had incredible, wonderful, blessed, fabulous encounters with God. I've had times where I thought he was going to kill me. Some days I think I can fly. I mean, just like I can't believe how awesome it is. I've had fires burn my house down, granddaughters die slowly, mom and dad pass away, my associate pastor pass away, leaving 4 children behind, and a single mom to raise them. I've had plenty of disappointment. I've had betrayal by pastor after pastor after pastor, after Christian after Christian after Christian. People who I've given all for have stolen it all and run away. I've had so much catastrophe. And see, before I met Jesus, I'd strike out and it would ruin my week. After knowing Jesus, I could strike out every at bat and it wouldn't ruin my week. It's completely different. I am born again. Have you followed him? Have you chased him? What if he's 100 miles away? Do you wait for him? Oh, well, then I'll wait for him to come to me. If he wants me, he'll have to come get me. I remember a visitation of God happened in a place far away. I came back to Orville. People were just so upset that I would bring that here. I'm like, no, it's like an outpouring of God's presence. It's just to lay there and be tickled by God. Who doesn't want that? If he wants me to have it, he'll bring it to me. I would say here in Orville, I was told that if I said 400 times, I don't think I'm exaggerating. I think I'm way short. Everywhere I went, well, he'll just have to bring it to me. I'm like, did you guys all get together in a room and say, let's have an answer for this and say, he has to bring it to me? And I'm like, wow, that's so crazy. It is so crazy. You're telling the God of this universe he has to bring it to you. These people walked 100 miles, and he was one of them. They'd been waiting for him for 2,000 years or something. They'd been telling stories about him. They were wondering, is he him? They walked 100 miles on dirt roads, and it's not exactly cool there. Not the coolest place on earth. It's kind of like this next week in Orville. Are you following me? You listening to me? Are you hearing me or daydreaming? Have you followed him? Have you gone after him? Would you walk 100 miles for him to find out what he's saying? Would you lay down your dreams? Would you lay down your life? Would you give up what you got? See, I'm not sure I knew if I knew. That's the problem. So I'm like, do I really know? Well, when my house burned down, it was like, it's like this bittersweet, there's a lot of stuff burned. All those kids' pictures and all those videos of Little League and all that stuff. Yeah, we won't be getting those back. And yet there was this incredible satisfaction. I am exactly who I said I was. I'm not owned by my possessions. I knew it. Right there on the sidewalk, looking at the heap, the smoldering heap of my house, of the house I lived in. I knew, I've done good. Possession has not owned my heart. You following me? Yeah. How about you? Do you know? Because I'm not always sure I know. Death comes my way. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm a miserable failure. But death came my way. I had peace. I still had joy in my heart. Sorrow, but joy came in the morning. Do you know? Jesus is trying to teach a doctrine of love, of loving the least of these, my brethren, of turning the other cheek, going the extra mile, loving your enemies, giving to any man that asks, counting others as more important than yourself. How am I doing on all these? Well, it's like a lot of balls in the air, man. I used to juggle, and I used to be really good at juggling. And people would say, put another one. I'm going, I can't put another one. I can't put another one. It's like, how many can you juggle? And I'm just like, I want to keep asking myself these questions. Have I pressed into him? Have I come to him? Have I pursued him? Have I followed him? Have I imitated him? Have I tried to be what he said I should be? Have I tried to be what he said he is? Or have I tried to make him into what I want him to be? Because quite frankly, I think that Aladdin, the movie, it tells me more about who I want Jesus to be than any other thing I know. Anyone not familiar with Aladdin? To carry a lamp around with you, get a big old pocket so you can keep it, and then every time you want something, you pull it out and rub it, and you get your wish. You give your wish. And your wish come true. Abracadabra. Bink. Maybe Bewitched, the little show that we were so perverted by. Our brains were warped by Bewitched. But can you imagine just... And it's just how you want it to be. I think maybe some of us got that version of who Jesus is. But that's not him. He is a master not to be twinkled or not to be a lamp kept captive in a lamp. No, he is to be bowed before. He is to be imitated and followed. He is to be revered and loved. And his only command is to be obeyed. Love one another as I have loved you. This is Christianity in a nutshell. Do you want to know? Like, people have taught you you're saved because you went to some altar and said a prayer. You are not. And I am so sorry that, people don't want to come here and hear me say that. But I'm sorry, I got to tell you the truth. There is no saving at an altar. There's no saving in a dunking in a water. That's all will be saved. It's this other thing. Following Jesus, pursuing Jesus, imitating Jesus, loving Jesus, being loved by Jesus, receiving his blessing. And then how do I know? Well, are you being changed? Is your time being consumed? Is your energy being consumed? Is your finance being consumed? Are you putting yourself in a position? I think it was Yost today did the offering and said, ask the Lord what he wants you to give. I can tell you what he wants you to give. He wants you to give today more than you can afford to give. And every single time you're asked, he wants you to give more than you can afford to give. Why? How do I know that? Because his command to trust him. Cast your cares on him. Be after him. Follow him. Right. What made David so popular? God said, because he's a man after my heart. Now that's two things. A man like my heart and a man chasing my heart. Are you chasing Jesus? Are you someone after his heart? Have you heard what he's done? Have you heard the testimony of what Jesus has done? I'm not going to be able to go to my 50th high school reunion, but those people, They knew a totally different person than you know. It'd be nice to hear the contrast of what God has done in me. I didn't care about any of them. Now I care about all of them. Just that one thing alone. It's evidence. I'm after him. My days are consumed with Jesus. He's my first thought in the morning and my last thought at night. He walks with me and he talks with me. He laughs with me and he cries with me. He speaks through me. He speaks to me. He's ever present, always with me. His eyes are always on me. His hand is always with me. He always hears me. He always sees me. And I know that he needs to have, I'm pressing so hard, sometimes he needs a boat at the ready to get away from me. I'm on him, after him. Are you? Can you search your heart? And are you who God came and died on a cross to make? Or are you who man has decided he is? And are you following after the precepts of man and what we've said he's all about? Making you rich, making you powerful, making you all these different things, making you great. Or are you listening to Jesus who said, I'm here to make you a servant. I'm here to bring a sword to your life. I'm here to make you somebody other people aren't going to like. Your kindness will intimidate them. Your love will actually bother them. Your forgiveness intimidate the crud out of them. Do you love your neighbor as you've been loved? These are the tests to look at and say, yeah, I may not be where I want to be, but I'm on my way. My eye is on the prize. It's the upward call of God in Jesus Christ. And I don't necessarily want to be who I am today, but I know tomorrow I'll be closer to what I want to be. I'll grow day in, day out, line upon line, precept upon precept. I'm moving forward. Not perfectly, but with all my heart. Amen. And today I thought, we should just ask ourselves these questions. Am I following? Am I imitating? Am I becoming what he wants, or am I trying to make him what I want? Really, that's the question. That's why these stories always bother me. Why does he silence these guys? Well, it's so important for you to know, because they're trying to make a story different than he really is. They're trying to sell the wrong version. Peter and Judas both tried to sell that version. Judas hung himself and betrayed Jesus and sold him out for money. Peter pulled a sword and cut an ear off. But then he repented, denied Jesus, and then he came back. So if you've done all those things, there's hope for you. Just like Peter was, go tell my disciples, and Peter says later in Mark, go tell my disciples and Peter, go get him. He came back. Come back. You've listened to the demons and you've gone off to who God should be in your life, or who you think you are, or what you want from God. Come back. Give your life to him. Surrender to him. Seek him and you'll find him. Knock and the door will be open. Are you with me? I hope you are. Why don't you bow your heads and close your eyes? I think today is one of those days where I think you need to do some business. Has it been revealed to you today that you're maybe not following him the way you should? You're not chasing after him the way you should? You're not surrendering the way you should? Or you're not seeking him to be the servant of all? You're not asking him to help you serve and give and lay down your life. No greater love has any man than he lay down his life for his brother. Are you seeking the areas to lay down your life? Holy Spirit, we need you. Would you ask him right now to reveal to you if there's any place in your heart and in your life where you're not chasing him, you're not following him, you're not becoming like him, you're not pursuing his truths, you're not surrendering to his will. I pray, Lord, that that today you would touch people. Even if I said it poorly, you'd say it for real in their hearts. You'd speak to them, Lord, and you'd begin to reach the depths of their hearts. It is my prayer that you would touch them, Lord, that when they're in doubt about you being with them, that you'd make yourself real to them, and your presence would be known, that your love would be known, and that it would be revealed that you have not rejected them, but that you're waiting for them. Come to me, all of you who are heavy laden and burdened, and you will find rest for your soul. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light, he says. Come to me. Come to me. Is he calling you? Is that you he's calling? Is that you? The Jews had it so wrong, and yet he was still preaching to them. You might have it so wrong, and yet he's preaching to you. Come to him the way I came to him. Come to him the way so many have come to him. Surrender the way we did, and find what we found. The way, the truth, and the life. The relationship with God. Revelation of truth. Come to him. In fact, I'm going to ask you right now, if God put something on your heart, in this prayer you have realized, in this sermon you have realized you fall short in these areas. Would you just raise your hand? Please keep your eyes closed. Don't look around. They're raising their hand to God. Yes. Yes. Raise your hand. You can put them down. If those of you who raise their hand, if any of you need to find out if he's real, you need to begin a relationship with him, you need to become Christian, then I'm going to ask you to come forward and meet with me when I dismiss. Come seek me. I'll stand on the bottom step for a little while and wait. If you raise your hand and you want to become a Christian and you want to meet Jesus and find out he's real, I want to pray with you. You might have called yourself a Christian for 40 years and you know you weren't experiencing what his truth is. Your Christianity was not working for you. Come and see me. If that's not you and you just raised your hand because of those places those places that need work in your life, then I'm just going to ask you to stand where you're at and we're going to pray. Just stand where you're at if you raised your hand and recognize something God's speaking to you. And we're going to make a generic prayer for everything. So repeat after me, those of you standing, say, Jesus, I surrender my will to you. You have shown me, I meant, yes, an area in my life where I'm falling short. Would you forgive me, Jesus? Would you make me whole? Would you heal me? I want to be after you. I want to follow you. Heal my wrong thinking. Teach me your ways. I want to be like you, Jesus.
Thank you so much for watching this video. We really appreciate it. And please make sure that you subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of our videos or our live stream. You can also support the Father's House financially by clicking the Give button. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you again soon.